Hello, good evening everyone. Happy Saturday to you. Wait, is it Saturday? I'm not sure what day it is anymore, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We would like to welcome you to our very first Facebook and YouTube Women of Harvest event. That's right, I did say we because frankly I'm sick and tired of being by myself. So we are so glad that you found us here in cyberspace, all from the comfort of your living rooms. Our goal here is to help keep you connected and to encourage you to just keep on swimming. Man, I sure do love coffee. You know, I read recently that Starbucks is now banning smoking within 25 feet of all of their storefronts. Now, of course, this has caused great concern with the smokers once they realized that there actually is a Starbucks every 25 feet. Speaking of laws, up until 2009, it was actually against the law to yell, whistle, sing, or hoot in the town of Petrolia, Ontario. Now, I have no idea where Petrolia is. Shout out to anybody who's from there. But I think that's fine, since it seems I won't actually be able to go there for quite a while yet. Just making sure I'm using the antivirus spray. Maybe a bit much. It's never too much. And I've got my hand sanitizer here as well. Nice big pack as well for that. Just trying to keep everybody safe together. So please do us a favor and share our new Women of Harvest Facebook group page so you and your friends can stay informed about our future events. And speaking of future events, I'm sure you are wondering what these fall events are. So right now, these are some of our plans. So the first one, dear to my heart, is the annual Women's Retreat at Camp Evergreen. This is scheduled for October the 23rd to the 25th. Always such a great weekend. Our theme this year is Breathe, a DVD study by Priscilla Shire. Retreat is an amazing time to connect with friends and with God in nature, make new friends, we laugh lots, we cry lots, we eat lots, and we sleep very little. So stay tuned for more information on that later in summer. The next one I want to point out to you is the Women's Gala. Save the date for November 27th. Always a beautiful evening out for that one, and more information is coming on that as well. And of course, in the meantime, as you're at home twiddling your thumbs or trying to herd the cats, your children, the church library is open during church office hours for you to manually come in and sign out a book or 2 or 10 or as many as you can hold. We'd also like to share with you 2 important emails. So if you need help with something, or you need someone to talk to, please email help@hhachurch.com. I think I said that right. Or let's talk at hhachurch.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please post them down in the comments section below, and Marion or Val would be happy to respond to you. So we hope this evening puts a smile on your face. We've put together conversations from 6 of our women at Harvest, women in different seasons of life, and they chatted about their thoughts on being in isolation and what they have been learning during this time, what God has been teaching them, and how isolation has affected them and their families. So we'd like to share those conversations with you now to offer you some hope during this time of crisis. But first, I need to make a little change. Now, I'm sure anybody who knows me knows that I always dress like this with my heels. I got makeup on and everything. But let's be honest, let's make a change here. This is our girls' night in. So I'll be right back. And I'm back. Now this is more like it. I have got my comfy jammies on, my fuzzy slippers, messy hair, that's definitely much more normal, and of course my ever-present basket of laundry that needs to be folded. Yep, gonna ignore that. So we're just gonna settle in here with my popcorn and all my friends. Hey, guys? Hello? Okay. Seriously, where is everybody? 'Cause I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me. My problems have all gone. There's no one to deride me. But you've gotta have friends. Stop singing! Okay. Get it together, Lisa. Get it together. Right. Yes. It is going to be okay. It is going to be okay. So let's just sit back, everybody. We've got our treats. We're going to settle in and let's watch how some other people are coping. Enjoy the show.
So it was March 13th. Mm-hmm. It was a Friday, and I think I remember like they were talking about closing and they were not sure. They were thinking maybe meetings 150, and then all of a sudden on the Friday they gave the announcement, we're shutting everything down. Mm-hmm. What was your first reaction to that announcement?
Well, originally I didn't fully hear about it on the Friday. It was more of the Sunday because that's when they shut down schools officially. And so I didn't react much to it because I knew it was going to come. Like, I knew it was going to end up happening, especially with the growing cases in Alberta and all around Canada. So I kind of suspected it, but it was still kind of a surprise to hear that that would happen.
How did it impact your life?
For one, it's also my graduating year from high school, so I don't really get a graduation this year, and that was a big impact on it. I had to finish all my classes online. That's probably the biggest impact it's had. And also my first year university semester and maybe second semester might be online too. So that was also a big impact that's happened. I also had to stop competing because I'm in track and field. And I had to stop competing and training for track and field. So that was also a different impact because I was training like 4 times a week and now I'm not training as much or as intensely as I used to. But yeah. And then also not being able to see my friends as much was also a huge impact on my life now. Yeah.
So what was school like online? How's that?
It's hard to keep up with too, because it's very hard to it's like very easy to get distracted at home, and then not having the same one-on-ones with my teachers that I could have. So it's become kind of harder, but I'm still going through the material and learning some of the stuff, so that's good. Yeah.
And so then how do they do that for grade 12 students? How do they announce for you? Like, how do you find out your grades and if you're even graduating, or how do you know what your final grade's going to be before graduation?
The way they did it is that our final grades can't drop at all. I mean, like the grades we had before, like COVID came in, like for the lockdown started, they can't drop from there. So most of us automatically graduated, even if we because once you've finished all the classes, if your classes were above a 50, basically you're past the class no matter what. And they also kind of we're not having diplomas or anything, no final exams. So, and a lot of universities are just doing it so that it's kind of a pass or fail mark to get in, if that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
then I have another question for you. Like, what has God taught you through this event? Because there's a loss there. You don't get to go have a graduation ceremony.
Yeah.
Are they going to do that online?
Yeah. I feel like what he's taught me is that everything is in his power. Like, if he wants to have this virus spread around, he would. And if he doesn't want to have it anymore, he could just stop it. And like, he controls everything. But I also think everything happens for a reason, because throughout this, I've been able to grow and learn more about myself and be able to try different things that I would not have been able to try if we like still had school and if I still had to be going to school every day. So now I just get more time to spend on myself and to really get to know people, like my family and stuff better too. Yeah.
Mhm. So what are some things your family's doing?
Right now we're quarantining with like another family, like they're my close family friends, so we're kind of quarantining together. And it's basically just, we do a lot of like barbecues together, and then they're like little kids that we quarantine with, so we kind of just babysit them and play with them. But it's basically me and my brother, and then my older cousin, and then 2 little kids that we're quarantining with. And then my parents, and then the little kid's mom. That's who like is kind of in my house right now. So it's like a big group, but it's like fun but tiring sometimes too. But we get
How old are the little kids?
4 and 6.
Also, there's some school going on there too.
Yeah.
The 6-year-old?
The 6-year-old, yeah. I help her with her classes online too. Yeah.
Oh, it's like having a big sister there. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. So my last question is, what changes will result in your life because of COVID-19?
I think the biggest change will probably be for university. It hasn't, like the school I'm going to hasn't officially announced that we're going online, but I know a lot of schools have. So we're just waiting on it to see if I'm going to end up moving away, or if I'm still staying here, or if my classes will be in person or online. So it kind of just depends on what's happening. I think that's probably the biggest change. Then also with track, that's probably another big change too, because I'm so used to running all the time and doing athletic activities, and now we don't know what's happening for my track season, because I'm supposed to be running for the university soon, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
So how do you train? You just train on your own now?
I train on my own, yeah. I usually either go running outside or I go on the treadmill, and that's probably about it. Yeah.
And then do you have coaches that you report to, or?
Yeah, I report to my main coach, but it's more if he just sends us the workouts and we do those, and then if we have any questions, we can text him about it. But that's mainly what we've been doing so far. It's just a very different vibe, because I'm so used to seeing my coach all the time and all my teammates, but I don't really get to see them a lot. So.
That's tough.
Yeah.
So now, what about graduation? What do you have planned for that?
We don't really have any solid plans. Like before all this happened, I was on grad committee, so I was helping to plan the graduation. So now we're trying to figure out what we could do for the graduating class, and we're trying to think of like a cute gift bag to give them with like some of the grad stuff they didn't get to have. And we might doing like a little get together in December. Like hopefully if all this passes through by December, we might be doing a little get together then. But we're still not sure on how everything's going with that. But we're having an online graduation ceremony, and that's probably about it that we might be doing this time.
So how many in your graduating class?
I believe there's around 500 of us. We have a huge class. I think it's around 500, yeah.
And you're going to do gift bags for 500 graduates?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's an undertaking. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is just terrific. Like, I'm amazed. So there's some great ideas coming out of all of this.
Yeah.
That's just wonderful. Well, Desola, I'm so glad that you just took a few minutes out of your busy schedule and that you were able to talk to me, and thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say to the people out there?
Just that we'll all get through this together, and everything does happen for a reason, and I feel like this is just a good time for everyone to really get to grow personally and know themselves better. And I think it's just a good time to kind of slow down. It's like time has paused for them to do what they need to do. So yeah, I feel like it's a good time for everyone. In some cases, yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Hi,
Hi,
Audrey.
It's nice to see you. We haven't seen each other for quite a while. I'm just wanting to chat with you about how you're doing and coping with this virus and what's going around and being in isolation. And I wanted to ask you first, what was your reaction when you heard the middle of March, the announcement that we were going to have to go into isolation, into basic lockdown because of this virus? What was your reaction to that announcement?
Well, so I had surgery on March 10th, and it was a major surgery. I had to have my colon removed, the majority of it, which is your large intestine. For people that don't know that, I didn't know that your colon was your large intestine. Anyway, so it was a very big surgery. So on the 13th, I was having complications that day, and I had to get an NG tube put in. So that's a tube that goes up your nose and all the way down to your stomach, and it's supposed to drain everything so that it gives your bowel a break. And so I was on a lot of pain meds, and I just remember wanting to know how the kids were doing, because we had a very detailed schedule before we went in of who was helping us when, who was picking up the kids when, where the kids were going to be. Even like Andrew would be at the hospital, set amount of hours and then go back home to be with the kids. Mm-hmm. So I was just worried about the kids, about what was going to happen with them. And once I knew that they were going to be with my in-laws, I was like relieved that they would be okay. And I just was in my own world of trying to handle the pain every day, and because there was a lot of pain. And so I didn't really give it much attention. And the people around me at the hospital, it was still a full unit because they still had the, recovery from, it was a surgical unit. Mm-hmm. So patients that had surgery were still all there. So it didn't really feel like anything until I got home.
So once you got home, how did this impact your life?
So when I got home, it was so lonely. My husband, he was doing great with me. Like, he'd come and check on me quite often. He had to work. He was working from home at that point. But he had to work. So he was working from the basement. I was in the living room, and I still wasn't feeling very well, mm-hmm. obviously because it's surgery, but mentally it was really hard because my kids, I hadn't seen them, and I wasn't going to be able to see them for another 2 weeks because I was in hospital. Right. And we didn't want them to get me sick, and I didn't want to pass them on to something in case I had caught something. And FaceTiming them was very hard in the hospital because I couldn't focus because of the pain meds that I was on. And also there was a lot of scary times that they were scared, like when they saw me with oxygen, and they were scared. So when I had the NG tube in my nose, I knew I couldn't talk, and I couldn't talk because of my throat. So it was very hard to talk and swallow, and I was in a lot of pain. So I couldn't even really FaceTime them. Right. So nothing went to plan, absolutely nothing. And I was there for 9 days, which isn't too awful. I mean, but they said about 5 to 7 days mm-hmm. is how long I'd be in there for. And then when I got home, not seeing the kids was really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And I really couldn't do anything for myself. So showering, my husband would have to help me shower. And I mean, he's amazing, so he did a great job with me, but it just was really hard on my heart not being able to, it was great knowing that my kids were being taken care of and that I didn't have to worry about them, but it was hard that I didn't even get to hug them or, So, and then when they were supposed to be coming home, on the day that they were supposed to be coming home, I had to go back into Emerge because I was having really awful symptoms. Mm-hmm. And I'd called doctors and they told me I needed to go back in. So I was readmitted because I had an infection and some other complications and a blood clot. So I was there for another week. And so I didn't get to see my kids again. And that's when I really felt the isolation in the unit too, because Andrew came in as little as possible, and no one else could come. And the unit was very bare, like there was barely anybody there, just emergency surgeries were there. So I got a private room, that was nice.
Yeah.
But that was just the hardest, the most absolute hardest part, was not being around my kids. And
When you came home the second time and had to wait again to be able to see them, having just come home from the hospital, when they did come home and then they all three had to do school online,
Mhm.
that was something else you had to face.
Oh yeah, it was it was very hard, because it was hard for me to have, I had barely any energy. So, you know, the having to figure out how to teach them, and that's never been my strong point, is, you know, schoolwork for myself, let alone teaching children. So yeah, that was really stressful for me. And sometimes, like, it's just the idea of constantly failing. Like, I mean, I realized I need to give myself a break because I did have major surgery, but it's hard to give yourself a break when you have these things you need to do, and you can't do them, or you're not doing them the way that you want to.
So during this time when you have layer upon layer of things that are new and strange, and they're not getting fixed right away, what are things that God is teaching you through this, when you know you can't fix it by yourself, when you're in isolation and you don't necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel yet? What is God teaching you through this time?
Well, the biggest thing that I learned before the surgery, I read a book that I really liked. I think it's called 1,000 Gifts. And I read it again before I went in for surgery. And it really talked about how gratitude builds your faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so any times that, you know, I was really struggling, my prayers would always start with gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Because I needed to look at little things. Sometimes they were very little things,
Right.
but they always added up and made my next day better.
Yes.
But at that time, I was like, I don't know how, doesn't matter how little this may feel right now, I need to thank God for it, because it's giving me hope.
Yes.
And then when he answers that prayer, which he always did, it built my faith. And so I felt like I could trust, it gave me even more confidence that I could trust in him. And so each day, the burdens that would come up, like the next day, if my stomach is still not waking up and doing what it's supposed to do, which could mean that I may need, you know, an ostomy bag, which we were really hoping to avoid, you know, like those types of things. I would bring it to God and say, well, thank you for, you know, the pain in my back is gone today. You know, thank you for that. And then I would cry out to him and say, Lord, I really need you to fix this.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest thing I would say is whenever I'm struggling, it's because I'm not recognizing God's hand in my everyday life. And so I need to get back to being grateful and thanking him and noticing all these gifts that he's given me, so that I remember and know that he has got me, and that he will be faithful to his promises, that he won't let me go. So, and that was the biggest gift too of the COVID, is that I had to rely on him, like solely on him. And, you know, it's easy for us to, you know, it's good that we have other people to lean on, but you know, it can be a crutch sometimes, and it can be not what we need exactly, and God knows what we need. So it was kind of a gift that he was able to show himself more to me.
Wonderful. So going forward, maybe something that has changed in your life going forward would be what?
I think it was, my faith has grown.
Mm-hmm.
And And it's cool because it's true that God you're never too far away for him to reach you. Like, you know, when I'm on this medication that was just awful from my mind and my mental thoughts, trying to sleep, and I'm feeling like I'm hallucinating and I'm going crazy, but God was still able to reach me, and still was able to give me peace in those moments when I wasn't thinking clearly. Nothing seemed real to me. I was in a lot of pain, but he got me through that night. And that was like the worst night that I had in the hospital. And I don't remember your question. I don't.
That's okay. I think you answered it well. That going forward, this change in your life, knowing that God is enough, and that no matter what you were going through, you could count your blessings, and knowing that the blessings that you had, you knew that God would be enough for whatever you faced in that day or the day to come.
Yes.
So that's very good that this whole virus has brought that change in you. But I know that our time is short now, and so we'll have to say goodbye to you. But thank you for sharing what you did, because it's given us some things to pray for you, Aubrey, continuing in the days ahead. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. Okay.
Thanks for listening.
Good evening, Sharon.
Well, hello,
Welcome
Gal.
to the Women of Harvest event. I am going to ask you some questions and give me your heartfelt answers. So, what was your first reaction when you heard about the COVID-19 and the quarantine that started on March 13th?
Well, I actually hadn't, paid a whole lot of attention to it. It's kind of like, too bad this COVID was out and about. But actually, when the quarantine came, I was completely shocked. I said goodbye to my students on Friday, having no idea that would be the last time that I would be able to, see them personally and to touch them and, interact and laugh and joke with them in the way that I did every day in class. So, I had completely underestimated the seriousness of the event, and so I was in shock.
So how did this affect you, impact your teaching and your life?
Oh, well, life has definitely changed. Arlen and I, my husband, we go for a lot more walks because there's so few things that we could do. In terms of teaching, it was a huge learning curve because I teach grade 1, and every day I have to go on live and teach my kids. And so it's the challenges of figuring out a system, and we're not doing Zoom. It's a different system that we have. We actually have a little whiteboard that I can draw on, and I can play videos, different things that we did in class. So that's been a huge technical learning curve. There are times that I get bumped out or mute myself and forget to unmute myself, so then I'm talking and the kids are coming on, and having to teach them computer skills as well. And they're smart little kids. They've kind of figured out now that they can sign in, and I can check them off that they're here, and then all of a sudden I ask them a question partway through the morning and there's no answer because they wander off. So that's definitely been one loss. One of the other things that really affected us is that my daughter Megan was supposed to get married this summer in July, and I had said, it's no problem, don't worry about it. The quarantine will be off by then, you'll have no problem. And I have been so proud of how she and Dawson, her fiance, have handled the huge disappointment. I mean, she is not the only one in church, and we've discussed how many of the young adults from church who have dreamed of their dream wedding, and now they can't have that dream wedding when they had planned it, and all that, time planning and dreaming and the excitement. And so it's been a whole shift of learning how to instead of mourning that or getting upset about it, is trying to find different ways of doing things. So she's been a trooper with that. And even with the kids, a lot of times I just say to them, hey, we're all learning this, or I'll laugh because I get bumped out, which means my room is still open, but sometimes because we have so many people on, or there's a technical glitch and all of a sudden, bloop, I'm gone. And so then I have to log back in and do the audio test and get that all on. So while I'm doing that, I can still hear the kids, but they can't see me. And so it's just fun to hear some of the things. But now they're like, oh, Mrs. Brand got bumped out. She'll be back in a minute. Hey, let's see how quiet we can be for Mrs. Brand. I know, I never even, initiated that myself. So it's been, I'll let them turn their cameras on and show me things that they've created. And who knew that I would be putting teaching lessons on YouTube? Another thing I am now doing, because I just thought that. So, I have been challenged, but at the same time, I've been kind of proud of, hey, I can do this. And I've learned how to play interactive games with my kids on the computer. And Megan and I have had lots of great conversations and tried to figure out what to do. And I've kind of got to replan a whole other little, small intimate get together, and we'll look at things for the future. So those are probably the two big changes in how it's affected me.
Mm-hmm. And what has God taught you through this? Is there any spiritual takeaway?
Oh, goodness. Well, it's kind of funny, okay? My reaction has never been the fear of, oh, I could get COVID and die. And so I have not lived in that fear at all. I go out walking and I have not lost a minute of sleep fearing that I'm going to die. I really have that sense of God has a plan for my life. He knows what's going to happen. He knows exactly how I'm going to die, and there's nothing I can do to change it. Now, I'm not going to go out and do stupid things, right? And, but on that respect, I haven't had that fear. So before you start thinking, oh, wow, Sharon, you're really spiritual here. But the part that knocked me was all of a sudden, well, I might not have a job in September. I teach at a private school. I don't know how many parents are going to be able to afford this. And my husband works in oil and gas, and that had already tanked. And then this whole COVID and working from home. And it was that whole sense of kind of that financial security and the plans that we had. We were supposed to go on a cruise, and I had full intentions of still going on a cruise. I'm like, why not? I'm not scared of COVID. And those kinds of loss of things that were going. And so it really made me look and go, am I really relying on God? Like some things I might not struggle with, but other things, boy, yeah, I sure did. Like that whole, what does my future look like? What does it look like for us? And so that one really threw me for a loop. I think the COVID and all the changes that came with that has really kind of shaken me as well. Just in terms of the fact that all of a sudden we're quarantined, people are making decisions, we don't have a voice because it's a pandemic, right? So it's kind of a state of emergency and decisions are being made, and sometimes I'm just shocked at things that I would have never ever thought could happen, or it would take years and years before that could happen. Suddenly all those things are coming about just like that. Like, some of the things that you read about in the Bible, when you look at kind of, some end times things, and I would think, this is so far away. And now you go, oh, hold it. It's like a cashless society. And, oh, hold it. Like, the way everything's going, we're looking towards, kind of like a one world government and things like that. And just the things that we see daily, our commercials, the news, all those things we hear seem to just be focusing in on the coronavirus, and us, we're just kind of helpless sitting by watching. So I'm really having to go, wow, Lord, in the face of all of this, I can't trust on the things that I used to trust and assume that they would be there. I'm really going, wow, there are things that I really don't trust. I take for granted, but I don't trust you in. And so those are the struggles that I'm having, that I daily have to give up or think in my head what's bothering me, and then kind of try and release that to God, and just to learn to trust that this did not surprise him. It is not a surprise. He has a plan. He knows exactly what's going to happen, and I just have to trust that. You know, to be there, to be open, to be a light to others, and to keep letting go of things that I want to control and let God have control. That one I'm still working on a lot.
Good to know. We're all in this together and we're all learning. And it's good to remind us that God is still in control.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing from your heart.
You're welcome. And I sure miss seeing all my friends. I forgot that one. I miss getting together with my friends and going for lunch too. So I am looking forward to those things.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. People have had some interesting experiences. It's good to know we're not all alone out here. I think we're only halfway. Let's keep watching.
Sharon, it's so good to see you again. It's been a long time since we've been able to see each other. And I just wanted to ask you a few questions today on how you've been doing during this whole isolation process. And first of all, I just wondered, what was your reaction when you heard the news in the middle of March about the fact that we would have to be in isolation? How did you react to that announcement?
Yes. First of all, hi everyone. It's a privilege to talk to Diane and to all my friends today. Hope you're doing well. After listening to the media and health officials, the realization of this pandemic was very sobering. Uncertainty flooded my mind as to how I was going to navigate through this new way of life. Certainly I had questions as to our safety and to my family's safety. Sadness separates us during this time from our families and friends, and I was very distressed with this and disappointed as well with the cancellation of our 40th anniversary at our church, as well as many other celebrations that were canceled. I knew I had to turn my sad feelings and fears and uncertainties over to God because He was in control.
And so what do you think you have been learning from God through this time, Sharon? I know that you're a widow and you live alone, so it gives you a lot of time to think and ponder and to just maybe hear from the Lord. What are some things that He's teaching you right now?
My life has been impacted in many ways. Really routine activities, day-to-day activities were turned upside down as to go shopping first thing in the morning because I'm a senior, and to spend as much time at home, whereas I'm an active person, I like to go out as often as I can.
Mm-hmm.
All adjustments I had to make. Instead of going to the gym, I did daily walks, but the most impact on myself was the feeling of separation from family and friends. I spend extra time on the phone and texting and talking to my grandchildren and texting them. And we had some deep talks and some interesting times of fun and fellowship on the phone. I enjoyed the Zoom Bible study that I've been taking part in on Wednesday mornings,
Mm-hmm.
and I look forward to seeing my friends. I've been watching live stream online with Myron in the family of church believers, and that has been very comforting to me. I've spent more time in God's Word, and it's been encouraging me. I also watch John Neufeld on Back to the Bible,
Yes.
and he has many insights and teachings during this time. Phil Callaway's Laugh Again has also brought some laughter into my life and encouragement.
That's wonderful. It sounds like you have a good balance going in your life, and things that you're doing and in things that you're learning. How do you think that this experience will change your life going forward after this?
God is teaching me things that are important in life, as family, friend relationships, and time with Him. In 1 Corinthians, it says the three things that will remain is faith, hope, and love. With eyes of faith, we can see God's work in any situation. God doesn't keep us from trials, but carries us through them. We have hope, as God promises He will never leave us or forsake us.
And Sharon, how can we pray for you?
Going forward, my prayer is that I'll be more Spirit-filled so that I can show genuine Christ love to others. I also hope that I can turn down the volume of busyness and of life and allow more time to listen to God.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing this with us, Sharon. And it'll be so good to see you in person again sometime and give you a real hug. Okay? God bless you, my friend.
Hug to everyone.
And to you. Bye-bye.
I'm just glad that you were able to give us a few minutes of your time. I know that your life is so busy, Lindsay.
No problem.
It's 6 kids, right? 5 girls, 1 boy.
Yes.
All right. And you know, I just we've been wanting to kind of get a feel for what young moms with younger kids are going through. And I know that on March 13th, when they announced COVID-19 and all the shutdowns, what was your family's first reaction, your reaction?
Well, honestly, we had heard early on the Sunday afternoon that school might be closed because of one of Isabella's classmates. Her parent is a school trustee, and so she had passed it along to Isabella. And she said it to me. I'm like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, we'll see what happens. And sure enough, a couple hours later, the announcement was made. So at that point, I was just like, all right, well, let's see what happens tomorrow morning. Like, we've got a pile of random homeschool books and some left over from China, so let's just do that. And there would be the non-quiet room.
That's okay. This is life, right? That's all right.
Yep.
Great to have her.
Okay, thank you. So mostly just surprise, and then, kind of rolling with, let's see what happens. And I think in my mind, it was like, yeah, it'll probably be a few weeks, no big deal. We can do this.
So then how has it most impacted your life now?
Well, homeschooling is more of a challenge when you've got 4 different grades and varying attention spans. And then you've got that one back there who's bouncing around trying to get your attention.
Mm-hmm. But then you also have the little one in the bassinet that was born during this time.
She's pretty easy so far.
How was that? How was
Which
that
part?
whole event? Well, you had
the hospital was fine. As far as going in, at the entry, they asked you a bunch of questions. Don't do that. And basically let us on our way. And up on the delivery ward, everything was normal, fine. You couldn't tell anything was weird. The next day, Andy had to have his temperature taken. That was the only other different thing. So,
and he was allowed in, no problem.
Oh yeah. Now, if he had have been sick in any way, he wouldn't have been allowed for delivery or anything. So that was a bit concerning. But turns out he was healthy, so we were okay that way.
And who helped you? So now you've had the baby, you're coming home, you've got a brand newborn, and you've got 5 kids that need to be schooled. And then was Andy working from home as well?
He actually got laid off 3 days before Isolde was born.
Oh my.
So the first 2 weeks that were a little bit crazy with, parent-led homeschooling with no resources. The first week was tough. The second week we were getting in a groove, so that was okay. And then of course the third week, the week she was born, I think was the one where the teachers had curriculum and were interacting with the kids. So it kind of threw that for a loop. But Andy was home, and we were all together. So all of us, all 8 of us in the house at
So
the
how
same
did you
time.
manage that? How did you manage doing school with different age groups, different classes, different teachers? Did you have enough devices? How did that all work?
We were able to borrow a device from the middle school, so that was helpful. And we ended up having to get me a laptop. So, and we have an iPad from before we went to China, we got an iPad. So between Andy's laptop, my laptop, the iPad, and the school borrowed laptop, it worked out. Bella and Autumn are mostly self-sufficient with the odd question, and their teachers interact with them directly. They have class meets and discussions and teaching. So I'm pretty hands-off with them. For Talis, some direction, a lot of telling her to focus, but she's pretty good. My most hands-on. I should have just gone to the bathroom and done this. And Asher was the most hands-on, so he takes a lot more effort, and I have to be with him all the time.
Yeah.
Later, just get your bunny and hang out, or go away.
Come visit with us.
Do you want to come sit with me? No. Okay.
She didn't
So,
want to
yeah.
come wave to me either.
So for her, she thought it was a party. You're all gonna play with me.
Mhm.
So that's been trying for her because we're like, no, we're doing schoolwork. No, we're doing schoolwork. You do this. You color. You do that. Here, watch a show.
I see. So then, yeah. So where's my schoolwork, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So she does get to do her own version of that, Play-Doh and coloring.
Yes. Mhm.
And the littlest one, she's pretty easygoing. You feed her and you cuddle her, and
Mhm.
she's the
Carry
easiest
her
one.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Or everyone else will carry her around.
Yeah. So what's God taught you through this event?
Patience.
I was gonna
Every
say-
day. Every day. Honestly, I'm not paranoid, but I'm also not too casual about it. I go out when I need to for grocery shopping and to the doctor and things like that. Or we go out for walks as a family, but we're not being unreasonable. So I think realizing that it's still good to obey your law, as God says, right? Wash your hands. Go sit over there. So just being patient with perhaps governing rules that I don't agree with, and knowing that God put them in place. Praying for all the changes and the rules and everything that happens that way, being patient with my kids, just accepting that this is the way life is for now, and not being afraid of anything, really.
That's great. So then I have one last question. So
Sure.
what changes will result in your life because of COVID-19? Like we've heard a lot of people saying, there's some great changes that have happened in our family, in our home, the way we do things. So some of those we want to take with us.
We've always kind of liked hanging out as a family, so that's not one of the new things for us. So, I don't really know how to answer that one. Honestly,
That's
just
okay. Mhm.
I for the most part, as long as we can go outside and get some fresh air, I don't mind being stuck in the house with my family.
Well, that's
We
good.
all need a little bit of space here and there.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
So how can we pray for you?
Well, there's that patience thing again.
That's right. Definitely.
And honestly, I think just being able to even do these kind of calls, Zoom or Skype or FaceTime with friends when you can't see them. Now things are loosening up a bit, but making sure that you reach out to people. So just praying that we continue community, our faith community and otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks,
And I
Marianne.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. It was wonderful.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ellen, it's so good to see you. It's been such a long time since I got to actually see you. And I just want to thank you so much for being willing to just chat with me for a little bit tonight. And we'll just talk a little bit about how this whole isolation and separation and having to be in lockdown has impacted you and your family. I know that you're a mom of 2 young little ones. You're also a nurse. And I just wanted to ask you, first of all, what was your reaction when you first heard that announcement back in the middle of March that we had to go into isolation and lockdown? How did you react to that?
My first reaction was very short term. We were getting possession of our new home in a few days, and we were wondering if we'd still be able to do that and how the move would go the weekend after. So there's a bit of a panic, but it ended up being okay. But that was my first thought, was like, how are we going to do this move? And if we can't get out, what about the person who's coming after us? And so it was a bit of like a scramble at first.
Oh, okay. Are you pretty settled right now then in the new home?
Yeah, we're finally settled. There was about almost a month of no internet, which, as you can imagine, being isolated and then no internet on top was twice the isolation. It was really tough, but we're okay now. It all worked out.
That's good. Well, what would you say, Ellen, has impacted you the most going through this situation?
I think the biggest part is the loss of support and the loss of routine. My husband and I trade off working. We didn't really have a regular daycare or anything in place, so we literally take turns. But we had like grandparents and obviously the church we go to twice a week, and we had my son's preschool, and so we kind of had ways to like break up the week, as well as even just outings like the zoo and the science center, and it's all of a sudden like literally in a day gone, like everything's gone. And it's like now you have like a 2 and a 4-year-old all to yourself, and most of the time single parenting because it's one or the other that's at work. And so it's exhausting. So we were already exhausted before COVID with preparing for a move and everything else, and trying to unpack. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, like you think you're stressed now. It's been, just like that loss of help has been really detrimental, and trying to keep mental health okay for everybody has been interesting, but we're okay.
What about your job? You are a nurse, is that correct?
Yeah. So I work in palliative care, and so that's been, it's only gotten worse. It's really, really trying. The restrictions that they put on at our job on visitors, especially, we really rely on our volunteers and especially on our family members coming in to support our patients. So once the restrictions are so strict, hence restrictions, that there's no volunteers allowed right now, and they're only allowed 1 visitor at a time. And there was, for a moment, it was only 1 visitor a day, and it was only ever the same person. And so looking these people in the eye and trying to tell them you have to choose 1 person that you will ever see in person again.
Wow.
Is horrific. Like there's no other way to put it. And I was trying to write my thoughts down about this, and I was like, I'm very used to witnessing suffering and things that is more physiological, so like symptoms and dealing with that, and yes, we deal with the psychological and the social, but a lot of times we can really rely on so many supports, especially family, and all of a sudden being the ones to deliver the news of this kind of pain that's never reversed is pretty, it's heavy. It's been heavy. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So through all of this, whether it's what you're going through at work, your move, your children, supporting your hubby through all of this, what have you been learning from God through this? How spiritually, how have you been handling all of this?
Well, at first, we had an argument.
You and God had an argument?
I had some words. I was thinking about it. And I was like, I wasn't angry. I was legit just at a loss, and I just overwhelmed with the amount of suffering I was witnessing, and not just in work, at home, in the world. And I was just burdened by it. And I was like, and I just could not see the good. Like I kept, like, you'd hear kind of like good Father go through your head. And I'm like, we gotta talk. we gotta talk about that. And just praying about it and just being brutally honest and saying, God, like, I don't see how any good of any of this. And especially had a patient at the time that just is just one that I think will haunt me forever. And it was really suffering even physically, and then to have the social part too. A lot of family issues and just recent loss even in the family. I'd already just lost a family member a month before, and now it was a young person passing away, and it was just, I just didn't understand. I couldn't comprehend, and prayed about it, and God sent me, thankfully, a beautiful song that reminded me. It's like, I'm just looking at the lyrics. It's like, you turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory, and you're the only one who can. And that's, I remember remembering the song, and it was one of those God moments where, like, I was like, you remember that song your sister sent you? And I was like months before COVID, and I was like, I'd like to hear that again. And then it was all of a sudden like, it was the answer I'd been needing. And just remembering, it's just like, yeah, my feeble little brain can't wrap around how any good can come out of this. And it's like, but God's the only one who can. And it's like, and with that, I am okay. Like, so.
And that was good that he was faithful to you, even when you were questioning him and you were perplexed and had all this anxiousness about you. He was still faithful.
Exactly.
To give you that song, and then that assurance and that comfort and that hope.
Yeah.
So going forward, will there be any changes in your life, do you think, for having gone through all of this the last couple of months?
I think mostly gratefulness would be like things that I already was grateful for. Like, I was already very appreciative of the support and people in our lives. But it's even the monotony of just like being able to take the kids to the grocery store. And I remember being like, oh, like, what's going to happen this time? Am I going to surfboard carry them both out of their screen? Or whatever. And now it's like, I would kill for that. I'd kill for it. I'm out of there if it all went wrong. But it's just having to say no over and over again about just simple things. And I when it finally all comes back to normal, I'm very looking forward to the normalcy, and I don't think I will ever take it for granted again. And a lot of things I didn't take for granted all the support we already had, because they were vital to us, to our survival. But there's a lot of little things that I just didn't even realize that were so, even just playgrounds, like, oh man, I miss playgrounds and I cannot wait till they're open. and just even in my own nursing practice too, at work, of just being so much more grateful for the families that do come in and are supportive and are just ready and willing to get in there. And just being grateful that, yeah, people can die without seeing their loved ones again. And I'm very glad when this is over that won't be a restriction we have to enforce. I cannot wait. Yeah.
Ellen, I just thank you so much for taking the time to share all this with us. And I think it's great because we know more how we can pray for you. There's a lot of things that you are carrying. And the fact that you can say you're learning gratefulness through all this and God's faithfulness. Those are things for us to learn from it too. So thank you again. And we'll remember to pray for you. Have a good night, Ellen. It's so good to see you again.
See you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that brings us to the end of our interviews for tonight's show, Coping with COVID. So I'm just going to close in prayer. You can join me from wherever you are. Dear God, I want to thank you for this whole group of women at Harvest Hills Church. We are so thankful that these few women here were brave enough to share part of their story with us this evening. God, please help us to remember that we are not alone, no matter where we are, and that we can put our trust in you every day. And thank you for that promise. Amen. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing you all in person really soon. Take care.